We have over 80 people who give to the Center for Christian Studies monthly. And those gifts are so valuable in your dedication and loyalty and providing them. And we wanted to just celebrate that. So that's the occasion for which we gather. I'm going to ask Michelle to say a few words.
I want to say thank you. Thank you for being donors to the center, but particularly and specifically thankful for your faithfulness as donors and for the way that you give regularly. The fact that we have monthly donors and that we know that that income is coming in every month makes an enormous difference in the running of the school, because so much of the rest of our income is really cyclical and seasonal. And like a lot of charitable organizations, we have a bunch of money that comes in at the end of the year. So you're sort of holding your breath all year long going, I wonder how the end of year campaign is going to do this year. To know every month that we have this amount of money coming in means that it is easier to do our yearly budgets. It is less stressful to be meeting our payroll twice a month. And it gives us the space to do risky imaginative work. Having a decent operating budget income means that we have that breathing space, that if we see an opportunity that we can take a risk and try and do something new. So at the beginning of the pandemic, that included doing online workshops on how to run things, congregational meeting online, or what crisis pastoral care work or trauma-informed pastoral care work would look like. More recently, it's meant that we've been able to offer programming for ministers in the process of admission into the United Church of Canada. And so as I find that there is often like seed grant money available, but it's very hard to take advantage of that. A much more fertile way to be able to innovate is to have the solid income month to month, so that you have the team in place to be able to dream and imagine and implement together. And our team is able to do that partly because they're not sitting there anxiously month to month, quarter to quarter, year to year, worried if this is the year that their job's going to be eliminated. So thank you so much for the faithfulness and regularity of your givings, which allow us to keep not only doing the work that we have done and continue that, but to continue to innovate. Thank you.
And I asked Letitia, who's one of our students, to come and just tell you a little bit about what she's been learning.
So yeah, actually, I've been just writing down some notes while Michelle was talking about different things that I would like to chat about. And being at CCS, the biggest things that I have learned from being there is the importance of safe space and being able to give safe space to everybody that's there. That was one of the biggest things that I learned, even just coming from LOP and learning that everyone has a place there, and no matter where their background has come from, that this is a place for them, and everyone has equal rights being there, and it just doesn't matter. Another one is critical thinking and taking the time to listen to what everyone has to say and not right away jumping to the conclusion or judging where that has come from. That has probably been one of my biggest learnings from CCS, is the critical thinking part. I used to be a person prior who would be right away jumping in, well, this isn't right, this is the way it should be. And I've learned to step back now and listen to other people and listen to the different varieties of opinions or what other people have to say, and then coming to a conclusion on what is being said. So those are probably two of the biggest learnings I've come through. Also, the love for CCS would be the way that CCS has their classes structured, how there's different options, and you're not necessarily need to go to CCS to become a diaconal minister, that there's those other options out there. And so if you feel that your pull is to social justice or pastoral care or worship and education, that you can go in those directions and you can take more classes within those directions. And that's what I really like, is that it's not, here's your structure, like in the academics, you're part of this class, this is your structure, and this is how it needs to be. You've got variety. And also the catering to people who have different learning disabilities or learning abilities, and how they can work with those different types of abilities. And that's the other part that I like. I originally came to CCS because of the safe space and because of the learning abilities, and how I felt that CCS was more for me because of the way the structure was done for CCS. So those are my big learnings and takeaways from CCS. There's many more. Actually, when Lori first said it, I was like, what haven't I learned from CCS? So break it down.
Well, I appreciate your comments, because this is it's probably a little intimidating to be with all these people who have some experience of already being in work in ministry. I'd like to just ask if anybody had any questions.
I see Tim. Yeah.
I, for my sins, I was treasurer for 6 years and loved it. Really enjoyed it. But it was the beginning of the big transition in terms of things that were happening nationally, national church grants, and great differences in pastoral care, pastoral charge rather, availability. And we wondered then what was going to happen for graduates in terms of ministry opportunities. That's one wonder I have, and the other wonder is I've seen through Common Threads some really interesting, quite different programs that seem to have attracted a much different audience than back in the previous century or whatever it was that I was there. So those are two questions that I'd love to have some information on.
Yeah, so I'll maybe work my way backwards. The flexibility of the program redesign that we implemented in 2017 meant that it's a little easier for people to dip into what we offer at the Center for Continuing Education, so that as opposed to when I was a student, if someone wanted to do work at the center in the area of Christian education, they were pretty much committed to a full-time year of study. And now if someone wants to come, they can come for a learning circle, so a week, and that means that our graduates can come back for continuing education, but also that people who are just interested in a particular topic or strengthening a particular skill set, or even just being part of the community, can come in. And we are seeing that is broadening out the participation, which is important in a lot of ways. Partly important because across the board in mainline Protestant theological education, enrollment in traditional ministry preparation programs is dropping. And some of what people need from theology schools is excellent continuing education offerings. The United Church, is continuing to settle into its restructuring and its own budgetary problems. So we did experience a cut in our grant, our operating grant from them this year, I guess. And we had that that the funding is remaining stable at that level from them for the next year. So one of the challenges for us has been to look forward and say, we don't expect to be getting a lot of extra money from denominational support. So how do we strengthen and diversify our income streams across the board so that we are decreasing our reliance on denominational funding? And I think that work actually we've made some significant strides in that in the last 4 years to decrease that dependence. And then there was a third part to your question, Tim. Certainly the landscape into which people are graduating is different than it was 15, 20 years ago. I think that one of the things we're seeing is that the diaconate remains equipped or graduates out equipped for an uncertain landscape and a landscape full of change. So that even if 5 years or one pandemic later, everything has been turned upside down, we are graduating out people who are resilient to change and who have a lot of skills to adapt and to help communities through transformation and adaptation. And I think more than equipping people for any particular kind of ministry, graduating out people who are not afraid of transformation and are resilient as leaders in the midst of it might be the most important thing that we're doing right now, so that they can move between different kinds of ministries and help their congregations or their outside ministries or whatever it is do the kind of transformative work that I think is going to be ahead of everybody, and then like we're already in the midst of, and it is only going to continue. So we remain committed to graduating out leaders who can work in community ministry or in congregational settings. And I think that's important as well, because certainly what is out there is changing, and I don't think congregational life is going to look the way it did before. But man, you know, all of those skills that our students learn in trying to navigate their way through our complicated program, I need to find a field placement, and then I need to figure out how many circles I'm taking, and I need to talk to 27 different people. Those are actually the skills everybody needs in ministry right now. And if all you had to do was show up in the right classroom on the right day, those are not the skills that are going to get you through. So it continues to be that some of the what I certainly experienced as a student, a challenging aspect of the program, just handling the administration aspect of it, has served me so well in ministry, because I've had to do that juggling ever since I graduated. It just turned into a different venue.
So we could take maybe one more question. Any other questions? Oh, Barbara Ann, you're muted.
Here I am. My question is a little more practical. I am happy and delighted to give monthly, and part of my reasoning is because I'm committed to the work of the center as a graduate, but also I do it to make my life a little simpler. So once a month, money comes out of my account. And I hate to say this, but what irritates me a bit is that every other month there's another request. And well, it irritates me. So should I give a little more monthly? Anyway.
That's such important feedback, Barbara. Thank you. I think we need to do a better job of communicating that people have options when it comes to what mailings they receive from us. And it's true that we've moved to a model of having much more communication go out asking, and that's not because our faithful monthly donors aren't giving enough. It's because that is really effective for everybody else. And so part of it is finding that balance, because we certainly don't want to be irritating our faithful donors, but the strides that we have made in increasing the donation line on our income has been absolutely incredible in the last year. So in the last 2 years, and that's kudos to Lori. I really want to hold up Lori's amazing work in that, where in I think 2 or 3 years of budgeting, we're moving from budgeting $100,000 in donations income to $150,000 in donation income. So we certainly hear, and I listen really sharply when anyone says the increased questions are bothering me, and some of this is a learning curve for us in how to figure out what our mailing settings need to be, but also finding that balance between the communication that works for you folks and the communication that is working for others. So yeah, you know what? Just throw it out, Barbara. Just hit delete. Just line the bird cage with it. Just remember, like, if it's not meant for you, it's not meant for you. But if you can persist with us in ignoring it, do so knowing that it's really effective for a bunch of other people. Yeah, but we can also change your settings so that you're not getting all that from us.
Yeah.
And I often do respond.
Yeah.
Barbara?
I was going to say too, I wanted to recognize Lori because I really have noticed that the work on fundraising has been much more proactive and creative, I would say, over the last few years. And I attribute that to Lori's leadership. And I get the same feeling at times too, Barbara Ann. I just wish somebody would drop $1 million in my bank account and I had more, more to give. But it is also worthwhile to think that some of us have been giving for many years, and there's a time to reappraise every now and again. Is there another way we want to think about all the different charitable things we give to, and would we be willing to give a little bit more per month or something like that? But anyway, thanks, Lori. I know it would be a job I would hate to have, so I'm so glad somebody like you is doing it.
Well, I just want to say thank you to all of you, and please, if there's communication you don't want to receive, please let us know. We're happy to make that note. And in the meantime, just know that we really are blessed by you and your dedication. And may you go from here and have a lovely afternoon.